All right. Hey, we have a full house. We have a lot of people in the house today. This is going to be a great time. So, thanks for joining us for Let's Talk About It with Xavier Fox. I am Xavier Fox, your host. Get ready for this journey on Mondays, on Monday mornings, Thursdays, and Friday afternoons. We're going to laugh and learn. We're going to learn other viewpoints on relationships, information on health and fitness, investing, sex, and much more. And today we're kicking off with Khalid Scott and his show, Relationship Reflections. He's talking about love and therapy, which is not a bad word. Then it's April Prayer's legal show, and she'll discuss all the legal stuff we need to hear and a few popular cases in the media. If you have questions on either segment, feel free to Zoom in using the link, which can be found on my Facebook page, Xavier Fox, or join the Facebook group. Let's talk about it with Xavier Fox and get all the info. Go to xavierfox.com radio. No, wait, hold on. xavierfox.com/radio dash show for the schedule of the month of December. And you can see when your favorite personalities or topic is scheduled to be discussed. So let's get to it. How you doing today, Khalid?
I am doing well, Sister X. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Did I finally say your name right?
Absolutely, you did.
I got to get used to saying it right. I've been saying it wrong for about 10, 12 years. So,
Right.
oh,
No problem. No problem. I could be called worse.
okay, we probably all have. So I'm gonna, go ahead and turn the mic on over to you because you definitely have a really nice following in here with you.
Got you. Got you. Well, thank you all for joining Xavier and myself for today's segment. And it came from a discussion in a forum that I did this past Sunday evening with a young lady named Janice Oda in regards to love and therapy. What inspired the subject matter was that I am a marriage therapist in private practice with highachiever.net. And I work not only with individuals, but I work with married couples. And I started my journey providing marriage counseling September of last year. And what brought it about was that I kind of heard through the grapevine, it was so many couples who were having marriage challenges going through the pandemic. And my inner self said, self, you know what? There is a population that needs your guidance, your wisdom, and your therapeutic skills in order to try to help make things better because I am very pro marriage and very pro Black marriage and Black love. And I want to see couples win. You know, one of my motivations is because I'm divorced. And when you go on that 30th floor at the Daily Center here in Chicago, which is also known as Divorce Court,
Mm.
you really see things in a different light in regards to love and commitment and the breakdown of love and commitment through the marriage. So again, my ministry, one of my ministries, is making sure that Black love wins, one couple at a time. So I wanted to discuss today about love and therapy.
Okay.
Now, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead,
No, I
X.
just said okay. I
All right, all right. So now, one of the things that I discussed on Sunday was that I think couples who are in a committed relationship, whether it be brand new, or you've been in you've had some skin in the game and you've been together for a while, every couple needs to be in therapy. And I feel that a new couple should be in therapy, a couple that's together should be in therapy. And even if you decide to let the relationship go, you should have couple counseling. And especially if you have children, okay, or you've been in that relationship for a significant amount of time. And what the question that was asked is why? What's the significance of being in therapy as a in a relationship with somebody you love? And for me, going into therapy as a new couple, you get to explore each other on a deeper level. You know, when we get into a new relationship, you're very giddy, you're very whimsical, you're very wow. This is everything I want. You're kind of going through that. I call it the new Disney movie adaptation of love, where
Uh-huh.
everything is new and you're optimistic and everything about that person clicks and everything is right because it's new. You're discovering yourself. But you know that only wears itself for a little while. You only could keep that mask on for a little while. And then slowly but surely that mask starts coming off. And then you start getting comfortable with each other. So you start doing things that maybe you would never do, like you might, not to sound disgusting, but you might pass gas in the middle of the night because you're comfortable with the person. Or when the person is in the bathroom brushing their teeth, you might decide, well, you know what, we're a couple. We don't see each other intimately, so I can go and use the bathroom while the person is in the bathroom with me.
Oh,
And folks might be like, wait, whoa, 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 you too comfortable. Well, you need to know that, you know? And I want new couples to explore and discuss their non-negotiables. The things that says, no, you can't do that.
okay.
Absolutely not. That's a game changer if you do that. And the second part is if you've been in a relationship a significant amount of time, you know there's the highs are high and the lows are lows in the relationship. And I think to be very proactive, it's beneficial to say, you know what? We need a tune up, just like a car needs a tune up, you know? And, discussing what's been happening in our relationship can only benefit and really get you comfortable to be more of a communicator and communicate effectively.
Okay.
Then, if the relationship goes to the direction you didn't want it to go and you have to end, and then, like I said earlier, if you have children, then you need to learn how to be effective communicators and even more so effective co-parents. Because just because you're divorcing each other doesn't mean you're going to divorce your children. And
Right.
that is a very, very vulnerable time in your life. Marriage really, divorce really does it to you. If it, the thing, as I've always heard, is like divorce is like death for the living, because it affects every aspect of your life, your mental, your physical, your spiritual, your financial, and your emotional, every aspect. And, I want to help couples learn how to cope. So that's my initial spiel on that.
Can okay. So since that's the initial spiel, let me just hop in with a couple questions that I came up with as we were
Yes,
going
ma'am.
on, because to me, um, when I was in the church, one thing that my bishop used to always say is you have to be mindful of where you get your information from. Okay.
Yes.
And so, all right, before I go into that, I want to say, as you were talking about what your pet peeves or deal breakers are, the game changers, if I'm in the bathroom brushing my teeth and you come in here and if my mouth is open, you cannot do any of that stuff. That's just nasty. But anyway, okay. So I want to know if you feel a pastor is a viable option for couples counseling if they've not been trained in counseling or coaching or social work or anything like that. They're just going from whatever they're going from.
Well, you got to know who's in front of you. So remember when you go for when you first get engaged to someone and you go in for spiritual counseling, which a lot of us do, you understand that the minister or the deacon or who's ever performing the spiritual counseling is there to give you from the spiritual perspective what God expects,
Mhm.
what you should expect as a Christian, you know, and know that they're not going to do what I would do as a psychosocial therapist.
Right.
He's going to say, well, the expectation that God has is A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. Are you willing to be in this role? Are you willing to be in that role? Are we going to do this like God says in the Bible, which gives a clear direction on how the marriage should go? You know, for better, for worse, richer or poor. Are you willing to stand with this person in those times when normally you might run from the person? You know, so it's a wonderful thing. But I ask that couples couple that with psychosocial therapy.
Right. Right.
The
Okay,
two
that's
go
what I
well
was
with each
getting
other.
at, because the whole psychosocial therapy, you're trained a whole different way with regard to the way that the brain works and the way that people interact with each other and all of those kind of things. So that's why I'm sorry. That's why I asked that question, because a lot of people say, well, we went to talk to the pastor, and that's good if you're, Christian, that's good, but that's not all that you need to do. Also, there's always this big debate. What about someone who may be trained, but they've never been married themselves? What do you think about that, counselor?
Okay, so let me give an example. I remember when I first started doing marriage therapy, um, husbands tend to be very suspicious, right? And just men in general, especially about getting mental health services, right? So the husband, um, he was looking at my hands and he said, Mr. Scott, he's like, "Are you married?" I said, "No, I'm divorced." So he was like, "I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, but how are you going to give us rock steady counseling and skills as a married couple if you're not in the game?"
Mhm.
You know, if you're divorced, your marriage failed, right? So how can you advise us? So then I said, that is a legitimate question, because anytime somebody brings something to you as a counselor, you always know you have to validate them first. That's the first, that's the first rule. So I said, that's a wonderful question, and let me explain. And after this, I'll probably never explain this to you again. If you go and see a doctor because you have found out you've been diagnosed with cancer, if that doctor has never had cancer, are you okay with that doctor working with you? And he said, yes, absolutely. So it's basically the same thing. But let me add this part to it. I've been through all parts of relationships. I have dated, courted, lived with, been engaged, been married, separated, divorced, and healed. So where you are right now, you're still married. I've been three other levels that you haven't been and that you don't want to be. And I'm taking this as, I don't want you to know what separation feels like. I don't want you to know what divorce feels like. So let me do what I'm trained to do and what I've been called to do to help your marriage out. Because you don't want to know what the 30th floor at the Daily Center feels like. And for sure, you don't want your wallet to know how my wallet felt 9 years ago. And he was like, well, Mr. Scott, you won't sold me. Thank you, sir. And again, that was a legitimate question, because it is the mindset that, why would I get advice from someone who it didn't work? And somebody told me this example a long time ago. If you want to make your house burglar proof, who should you get advice from? A police officer or a burglar?
I'm going
And
to the
I was
burglar.
like, whoa, wow, wait a minute. A burglar, because
Yeah,
a burglar knows the tricks that a cop wouldn't know.
right. Like that movie Blue Streak. Is that the one with Martin Lawrence? And he's the
Yes,
burglar, and he winds up becoming a cop under false pretenses or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Or like when they have movies, like the TV show Scandal, right? The woman who was the real Olivia Pope, she was an executive producer and a consultant. Who
Mm,
better to tell her story than her?
right,
You know,
right.
so because you get the nuances that another person wouldn't have. So because I've been separated, because I've been divorced and broke down and had to go to counseling and try to heal and raise a kid, I know what you don't want to experience. So I'm going to work extra hard to help make your marriage successful with your spouse.
Okay. Okay, you can carry on. I just want to get those in there from the first.
Got you. Got you. So, um, let me and I touched upon this a few moments ago when I talked about men being challenged with seeking mental health services, especially counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with the married couples that I've counseled, all of them, ex, came in because of the husband's infidelity.
Wow, all of
Yeah,
them.
all of them. And ex, I've been saying this term for a long, long time, going on 25 years. All men cheat. And when I say that, the room gets fired up.
I know, because
Okay?
I got fired up a couple times.
Right, right. And when people question me, challenge me with it, the first thing I say, and I've been saying it for 25 years, is prove me wrong, and I will never make the statement again. And in 25 years, Miss Xavier, no one has ever proved me wrong. In fact, when they sat down, they was like, I'll be damn, you're right. Because my theory is this. If I told you to take a piece of paper out, Xavier, right now, and
Mm-hmm.
I said, Xavier, I want you to write down 10 men that you know personally who've cheated. But then I want you on the other right, draw a line in the middle of the paper, and then I want you to write 2 names out of men who you know for certain who have never stepped out on their relationship. Which list would be easier to write? And it has not been one person who has said, wow, the one with the 10 men will come like water coming down the drain pipe.
Yeah. I mean, I know a guy who's married now that has not cheated on his wife.
Right?
However, he was one of the big. I'm surprised that but I guess because he was one of the biggest players I've
Yes.
known. But once he got married, now that he's married, he has been faithful, which
Yes.
is shocking.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
on the other hand, I do know a lot of a lot of married men hit on me, so I know there's a lot of them out there that's not doing what they should be doing. You must have hit your mute button accidentally, Khalid. Your mic is off.
Right. Okay, sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was saying was, until someone proves me wrong, I'm gonna keep saying it. And I'm man enough and strong enough and bold enough to say it. And to be honest, the reason why I make such a provocative statement, X, is because it gathers people's attention immediately.
Mm-hmm.
People want to hear my theory behind it. What's my evidence behind it? And when I break it down, and I ain't just talking about cheating, meaning you go and lay down in bed. I'm talking about the infidelity that starts on the telephone with the
Yeah.
first conversation. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about the infidelity when you're lusting after your secretary at your job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about when you get on social media platforms and you're inboxing a young lady, knowing on your profile picture is a picture of you and your wife.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then I'm clear, we live in a society that tells men every day, cheat, cheat, and cheat again. In fact, women will value you more if you're a player.
Oh no.
You would think that wouldn't be the case, but Xavier, I told you last month that my Playboy buddy told me, Khalid, when you start dating, you're gonna date the women that I've destroyed. He had no lies with that statement. He told no lies. And what happens is, what it is we're so used to toxicity We're so used to toxicity in our relationships that we've normalized it.
But so Khalid, I
So
want to
then
ask this. Let me ask you this question.
yes,
Why is he
yes.
so comfortable with destroying people and he knows what he's doing? What's wrong with him? What happened in his childhood? Because he's got a problem.
You're brilliant. Now, I told you you're the valedictorian, X. He was sexually abused as a kid.
Okay.
By an young adult woman. And so one day we had a long conversation about that. And he came to the epiphany that my revenge on that babysitter is casted on all the women whose lives I've destroyed.
Mm.
So it's just like Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was the serial killer back in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. He got heartbroken by a young white girl who had long brown hair, who wore it parted in the middle. So all of the women that he killed, guess what, Xavier, had long brown hair parted in the middle.
Wow.
He was that devastated by that one young lady's breakup with him that he killed all these young innocent girls just because of how their hair was. So stuff triggers people differently.
Yeah, it does.
It triggers people differently. So in my friend's head, if these women gonna let me run, because what my boy told me is, Khalid, understand that I've slept with so many married women, it ain't been funny. Khalid, I've slept with ships, meaning I've slept with sisters.
Oh.
I've slept with cousins. So I call it the Jack the Ripper syndrome. Now, as you know, Jack the Ripper killed prostitutes, right? In 1877, right? So he had a targeted victim, right? Well, the theory is that his birth mother was a prostitute.
Oh.
So he went and killed prostitutes based on being triggered by their profession because his mother was a prostitute. See? So there's always a rhyme and reason why people do what they do. There is nothing never accidentally done.
I agree.
Okay?
There is something, and people, I think we talked about this before, the formative years in childhood, and how once people become adults, they feel like they didn't have formative years or they've outgrown whatever influenced them during those years, and they haven't. You have to actually face those demons, but a lot of people don't do that. And so, yeah, that triggering, that's very real.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so 8 children and 6 women later, and he may have more kids than that.
8 children and 6 women. Oh my God.
Yeah, he has 8 kids by 6 women. And now has never been married.
Oh Lord Jesus.
Has never been married. And listening to him, he's like, Khalid, my bed is only empty if I choose it to be empty. And you might say, well, Khalid, maybe he blowing smoke. No. Me and him used to be colleagues, and I saw it firsthand. The women lost their mind with him. And his game is powerful. It's like the way he talks, the way he presents, and he gets women who are normally, who you would think were like the catch to submit to him, all because he has a slick tongue.
You know what? I need you when we get off this show. I'm gonna, because you mentioned him often. You're gonna need to tell me his name just in case I run into this dude. I need to make sure. I'm like, oh no.
You better have on your Nikes and run the opposite door, because the only thing he needs is 2 minutes of your time. I promise you that. I promise you that. I promise you that. So it's real out here. So and going back to talking about men in therapy, for the majority of the couples that I've seen, the wives were the ones who called me. Now, isn't that funny? The husband did wrong, but it's the wives who reached out for therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I saw a pattern of is that the husbands would say, okay, babe, I messed up. We can do therapy, but I want a male therapist.
Mm.
Now, understand the mind of a man. Women tend to be what? Emotional, correct? But
Mm-hmm.
men tend to be what? X.
More logical.
More logical. So
Suppose.
in their head, if I get a male therapist, more than likely, and especially if he's heterosexual, he'll side with me.
Mm-hmm.
And see for and so what happens is on the first session with me, I let them know the reason why both of you all are sitting in front of me is both your faults.
Mm.
So then the wives are surprised by that statement, X. So they're like, well, Mr. Scott, wait, whoa. I'm paying for this with my Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Wait a minute. How is it my fault? You think I wanted my husband to go out and sleep with other women? I'm not saying it's your fault that he committed the act. I'm telling you to take ownership of what happened inside of the home. And then second of all, if you can't take accountability of what happened in the home that possibly led him, and I use the word possibly led him to go outside and look for love and companionship and lust in the streets, then I want you to look in the mirror to say, how does this man get to cheat on you 5 times and you're sitting in therapy with him trying to work it out?
Oh no.
So that tells me again, there's something on both ends of the table. We got to do the work. And then also too, when you come into therapy, you're already being very vulnerable, right, Xavier?
Yes.
And you're having to disclose to a stranger who doesn't know you. You have to tell them the worst aspects of your life if you really want some progress to take place.
We have to be
And so
transparent.
right. So you don't want that person that clinician to judge you. So oftentimes I hear the soft presentation. I get that first. But of course, because I'm a skilled clinician, my thing is, come on, give me, give me, take the bow off. Let me hear the raw. Don't pretty this up. Because if you're going to pay me $95 an hour, you want me to be able to do what I need to do for you, correct?
Right.
Yes,
You want
Mr. Scott.
real
Yes,
results.
Dr. Scott.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is one of the first homework assignment I give them is I want you to go this weekend and look at a TV show called Ayanla Fix My Life. So then a couple will look at me like, huh? I said, well, the reason why I want you to go and look at her because I'm the male version of her. And once you see her style, then you know what you're about to work with. Because what happens is with Ayanna Van Zandt, she's a life coach. So she's not a trained clinician. In fact, she had social workers and therapists and clinicians on the set to provide additional services.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, she's a life coach and she has a law degree. And she's a minister. So she can only address certain things without putting herself in jeopardy, right?
Right.
And that's why she has clinicians on the set. So what happens is she has 3 days to get to the core of what's going on with the people in front of her. And so how I translate that with my therapy with couples, I tell them, you can sit with me for the next 10 years and give me $95 a week times 10 years. That's a whole lot of money you're going to be spending. Or we can get down and dirty with this and you can be out of therapy 6 months to a year, depending on what's going on. But you have to get down and dirty with it. You can't come church clean to therapy. We'll get you church clean eventually, but I need your dirty clothes on right now.
And so do you take them back through childhood traumas to find
Yes,
out?
I do.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Mm,
Because typically everything stems from what you experienced back in the day.
absolutely. And people just don't believe that, but that's absolutely true.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So I've heard husbands say, well, Mr. Scott, I grew up in a house where my dad, my granddad, my uncles, my male cousins, my brothers, everybody cheats. So part of my family is that we have second families
Mm.
on the side. So it's been condoned. And because it's been condoned only by not only by the men in our family, it's condoned by the who, Xavier?
The women?
The women in my family.
Because they stay.
Because they stayed. So as a young man, if I see my dad continue to cheat on my mom and my mom stays, what has mom taught me about relationships?
Man, listen. So I
Yes.
I grew up in somewhat of that situation. My dad and his brothers were known in the city I grew up in as players. It was
Yes.
four of them, and
Yes.
they had a whole name. All the women loved them, and I saw
Yes.
my mom and some of the other women that my uncles dealt with on a regular basis, like they were the
Uh-huh.
regular chick, but there were other chicks too. And I saw the other chicks and I saw the regular chicks, I saw all of that stuff. And then I would hear stuff about my dad and I shared with you what I found out after he died and all that kind of stuff. And
Yes.
what that led me as a young woman to be was very emotionally disconnected. So I often talk about not having my first heartbreak till I was in my 40s, but I think I never actually opened myself up enough to love until I was in my 40s as well. You know,
Yes,
it
indeed.
it make if you watch it long enough, you're like, okay, this is what men do. And the women who stay, to me, because my dad always told me, don't be like my mother. And
Mm.
I looked at her as being a little not so smart because she stayed, and I didn't want to be that. So I disconnected. I never emotionally attached, even though I was married. You notice I said my first heartbreak. I mean, I was very distraught when my husband was killed, but
Yes.
still, my first heartbreak wasn't until my 40s. I was in my early 30s when my husband was killed. So I don't think I
Yes.
actually it damaged me to the point where I just emotionally disconnected from men. I could be in a relationship, but I wasn't in there and vulnerable like I probably could have been. I'm not gonna say should have
Yes.
been, but could have been.
Yes. Absolutely. 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 So again, dysfunction is passed on through generations.
Yes, it
And
is.
it's up to us to decide to break through those vicious cycles. And to be honest, just like I mentioned last month when we talked, our dysfunction comes all the way from slavery. So it's centuries old. It's centuries old. Xavier, I wish I could stop people from stepping out on their relationships and having sidekicks, but I'm not that powerful.
Right.
Not when you have TV shows that rated #1 telling women it is okay to be a mistress.
You mean scandal?
Okay? Yes. #1, you remember back in the day, I would do posts like, y'all stop glamorizing this. Being a mistress is not glamorous. People would curse me out on Facebook talking about Thursday night at 8 o'clock, me and Olivia Pope got a date.
A lot of us had a date with Olivia Pope.
All right.
And she was so powerful. The fact that she was a side chick was kind of, but she seemed like the side chick that was really the main chick. And it doesn't make a difference, but mentally
Right.
we make it be okay.
Right. But think about if you really paid attention to that TV show, because I watch, because if I'm going to criticize it, I need to be able to justify my criticism. But think about it. Look who her mother and father were. So we talked about how trauma affects you, right? Remember, both her parents were murderers.
Yes. Oh my God.
Both her parents were murderers.
Yes, they
were
were.
powerful, but they were murderers, right?
Yep.
Then remember, it was a black senator who loved her, right?
Yes.
She didn't want to be with him because why? He was a good guy.
Mm.
She wanted to be with the president, you know? Then she ended up, prior to about the show coming to an end, becoming united with his wife. And then she got into another dysfunctional relationship with another guy. So I was like, boy, Shonda Rhimes really knows how to bring out some dysfunction in the sister. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't win. So yes, she was the boss at work. Her career was on target,
Yes.
but her personal life was in shambles. And how many men and women we know walk that story?
That's a lot of people's story.
Yes.
That's a lot of people's story.
I got it together at work, but when I come home, everything falls out of line and out of order. So then I'm helping couples learn about how to conduct themselves in order. So I talk about things in love and therapy, talking about the roles that you should play. So I get a lot of the wives, listen to this, X. The husbands say, my wife emasculates me. I get that a lot. And let me break it down so that the ladies in the audience can understand about how especially Black men take emasculation, because it's deep and it's powerful. Once you have ever emasculated the man you are in love with, you should more than likely break up with him and walk away and never turn back.
Wow.
Because once you have made a man feel like you don't respect his manness, his manhood, and his man abilities, he'll never look at you the same. And his mission in life will be to destroy you as his woman. Now, let me explain how that works itself out. Halle Berry at one time was known as what, Xavier?
She was the most beautiful woman in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look at her relationships.
Yeah.
Look at her relationships. You mean to tell me somebody with a face that looked like Jesus chiseled it from clay, who had a body that just looked like God just blessed her with every part, who was the epitome of femininity, who was soft-spoken, sexy, and man after man. And it wasn't just Black men, it was men of other races. Why? Go back and hear her story. Her father was abusive to her mother, and he abandoned her and her little sister, right? And so one of the ex-husbands, okay, and his name was Eric Benet, the R&B singer, right?
No, I know Eric. He's from Milwaukee.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah, sure is. Now, he did an interview, and he said one day, because when they got married, she had gotten to the height of her career. She was making the hit movies. She won the Oscar. She won an Emmy, for her portrayal of Dorothy Dandridge, right? So she was in a height. So she did a lot of red carpet events. Now, Black folks, we know who Eric Benet is, right? We know him, but he ain't white famous, right? So they on a red carpet, a white female interviewer is coming up to her. She was like, "Hi, Halle. So this is your husband, Mr. Berry."
Oh.
So Halle checked her like, "No, it's Benet." She said, "Oh, I'm sorry. It was a slip of the tongue." But what happened was immediate, and it wasn't Halle's fault. It wasn't Halle's fault. But that journalist or interviewer emasculated him in public. Now, we don't know what was happening behind doors, but what ended up happening to their marriage? He said he ended up cheating on her with tens of women. Because if I'm a man, the most horrific thing I can do to you as my woman is do what to you other than beat you physically? Cheat on you. Because what happens is us men know if we cheat on you, if me and you in a relationship and I cheat on you, more than likely you are going to go research the woman who I cheated on you with.
I'm not,
because
but maybe that's what they do.
In general, I'm talking in general terms.
Okay.
So what happens is women go on social media. I got to see a picture of her because she got to be a bad mama jamma for you to risk our entire togetherness and cheat with. And most times, the woman don't look better than a wife. It's something that woman made him feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean just sexually,
mm-hmm.
meaning maybe she's the sidekick or the mistress who cooked him macaroni and cheese and fried chicken like his mama used to. But you're the wife, you're at home, you work in your job, you're the CEO of your company, and you don't cook no more.
You know, what's interesting that you just said that, because my dad, you know, I was a daddy's girl. He used to tell me a lot of stuff. And one of the things my dad always told me is that men choose a woman based on the way she makes him feel outside of the bedroom.
Absolutely. 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 And I've always disclosed this with my mother's permission. My mother was a mistress twice. And my mother's thing was, because my mother watched my grandfather beat my grandmother every day of her life.
Wow.
And he had 5 kids outside their marriage. My mom's thing was, a man will never have that type of dominion over my life like my dad had over my mom. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have the company of a gentleman. I'm going to have a man, but he's going to come over here. Okay. He's going to eat his macaroni and cheese, greens, Jiffy cornbread, mashed potatoes and gravy, sweet potatoes. And then he's going to have his brown leather shoes by the front door. I'm going to make him feel like a king. And then he's going to take himself home. Oh, but before he leaves, he's going to pay that rent. So I'm going to get my needs met, and then you're going to go home to your wife who you can beat into. And then I remember my mother sharing a story with me that the man who she had the 16-year affair with, at different points, he would say, Kathy, I want to marry you. I want to divorce my wife and marry you. My mother told him, never. Because why would I marry you for you to do to me what you're doing to your wife now with me?
That's exactly right.
That would be a setup.
Yep.
And I'm okay with this setup. You're going to come over here, get your Sunday meal. We're going to have our intimacy. You're going to pay this first month rent. And he paid, listen, Xavier, he paid rent for 16 years.
Wow.
I want to say that to you again. He paid rent for 16 years. So what was going on in his marriage to make him leave his wife and 3 children to come to my house for 16 years with my mother?
Well, you know,
so can't nobody ever tell me the power of infidelity, because I lived it, X. So when people blow me up and like, Khalid, you don't know what you're talking about, I said, not only have I studied the science of human behavior, but I watched it from age 2 to 18 years old. And when Mr. Lee and my mother broke up, guess who got hurt? Me, X. Because I loved Mr. Lee. He was my dad. So when you cheat, X, you not only affect the people you married to and the people you cheating with, but the people who possibly love you. My whole entire family loved Mr. Lee.
Wow.
So see how powerful that is?
Yes.
And then think about it. If he was my male influence growing up, what could I have taken from what Mr. Lee showed me, X?
Oh Lord. I don't even know. It's so much in that package. I don't know.
Absolutely. But think about it. Having a friend like my friend who gave me the game and growing up seeing Mr. Lee, do you not understand that I could be the biggest playboy if I wanted to in Chicago?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I could be if I chose to, but because I used to see when Mr. Lee left, I saw my mother how sad she looked on February 15th because she could never celebrate Valentine's Day on February 14th, correct?
Right.
She had to celebrate it the 13th or the 15th. And as a young Black boy watching my mom look sad, I could say, man, I would never do that to a woman who I'm supposed to love. So that's why my commitment to marriage and marriage therapy is like it is. I'm passionate about this, X. This is my second show, third show, but this is the one I wanted to talk about being in therapy because I want couples to win. X, 9 of my friends are going through a divorce right now, ma'am.
Yeah, you were saying that, and that's pretty wild.
Yes.
9.
Yes. 9. 9. I told you the story. I got 27 garter belts. I always like catching the garter belts at weddings. I caught one this past summer. Out of the 27, 20 of those marriages are no longer in existence.
That is so crazy. That is just crazy.
Absolutely. And then I love women. So when I'm sitting down talking to women, I have these intimate conversations like, sis, you can't let him get away with that because if you let him get away with it that one time, you might as well throw him out because he's ruined. When you forgive a man for cheating on you and he hasn't learned the lesson, so let me say that again because people will mix that up. If a man cheats on you and he has not learned the lesson that God wanted him to learn, he will more likely do it again, especially because you forgave him. Now, ask me why, X.
Why?
Because in his head, it's just that you gave me permission to cheat on you because you told me no matter what, you will take me back. So I tell my married couples, remember, I'm always about honesty and transparency. If this therapy don't work out and he cheats on you again, don't come back to my therapy. Go and see a divorce attorney. Because if you don't learn the lesson from Dr. Scott, and X, you on the phone with me for an hour and you can feel my passion, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I know you.
So imagine if I'm sitting in front of you and you paid me for 6 months, for a year to give you this. If you ain't learned the lesson that God needed you learn about saving your marriage, ain't nothing I can do, and I don't need your money. Because X, the reality is I've been in private practice 3 months and I have a waiting list.
And that's wild. And you said a lot of those are men, right? You said that?
Yes. Because now men is clicking with men. We're traumatized. We're hurt. We're mad at our mamas. So now we need to get help, get fixed, because we're having these bad relationships after bad relationships after bad relationships. X, the reason why I can still look at women the way I look at women, especially because my mother was a mistress, because I had a conversation with my mother when I was 21 years old, got home from the Army. I said, Mom, I need you as my mother to explain to me why you felt it necessary to be a mistress. And my mother, old school, my mother still got a Jerry curl from 1982, Xavier. She still has it, and she wears it, and she rocks it with the plastic bag and the activator gel. Yes, and I love it. My mother said, I'm going to answer your question, and don't you ever question me again, son. She said, when your little fat roly-poly butt was growing up, did you wear the best clothes that money could buy from men's shops? Yes, Mom. Did your fat roly-poly butt eat well every day, sir? Yes. Did we not have an apartment with French pavilion furniture and French phones and glass and we went on trips and you went downtown to see Broadway musicals like Annie and Your Arms Too Short, The Box with God? I said, yes, Mom. Why are you asking me all this? That's why I was a mistress.
Wow.
I was a 20-year-old woman with a 2-year-old son I had to raise. So don't you ever question why I had to do what I had to do to make sure you have the life you have, sir. That's why I respect my mom, because I understood why. And because I'm a clinician, I understood the trauma she dealt with watching your daddy beat your mama. I don't know what that feels like, X. I can't imagine watching a man punch my mama in the face.
Yeah, I can't either.
I can't imagine what my mom must have felt when she knows she got 5 siblings outside in the streets. So I understand why my mom like, nope, I got to love on my terms. And see, the other dirty secret is Mr. Lee's wife was all for it.
What?
Because she knew about my mom. Mr. Lee owned taverns in the city. He owned 3 taverns, and if I said the name of them, then people would know, and I don't need people to do that. But what happens is he had money, and my mother was 25 years younger than him. So he would put my mother in designer dresses, tailor-made dresses. My mother had a Anita Baker cut, and her nails was long. And my mother worked at a steel mill. So, but every Friday night, she understood the assignment. So she got her nails done and her hair done because she knew on the weekend, they would have to go and rotate through his nightclubs. And so, of course, it got back to his wife. And she knew about my mother. His grandson went to high school with me. He bought my grandmother and my auntie fur coats like he bought my mom. And we went to his family reunion down in Arkansas.
What?
Yes. So see, my mom, mistresses back in the day were different than the girls now. The girls now, they think because he took you to a Steak 48 or whatever the place is, he done something for you. Mistresses back in the day got rent paid.
They were kept women.
They were kept women. Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So with all this going on, because I know we're wrapping up, with all this going on, that's why I'm on a quest to save marriages one couple at a time. Because I also tell the couple, you got to do the individual work as well.
I have one more question before we wrap up. I want to get in before we wrap up, because I didn't even realize we had got this close to wrapping up. I was all in. So, I hear this word emasculation often. You hear men talk about it on Facebook and all of this kind of stuff. What are some ways specifically that women emasculate men?
I call it, now, this is a syndrome that a lot of women are guilty of. It's the CEO with the janitor. So let me explain what that means. Young lady, she makes 6 figures, right? She's the boss at work. She owns a loft or a nice house. She drives a BMW or a Mercedes or a Lexus. She's an AKA, she's a Delta, she's a Zeta. On the resume, her resume is tight. Her resume is tight. She's the young lady that women want to be like. But the only thing that she doesn't have is what, X? Love. Right. So what happens is, I want a man, even if it's just for companionship. But what typically happens is, I don't meet a man who makes 6 figures, who's an alpha or a kappa or omega, or he belongs to the NAACP, or he has a tuxedo in his closet. I mess with Daryl, David, Tariq, right? I mess with the janitor. And what happens is, that janitor is like, man, I'm kicking it with the CEO. My ego is on fire right now. And he understands his assignment is, I got to make that body feel good. So he puts all his work on making her feel good. But then with women take on men as projects. Well, I know he's a janitor, but I think he has the makings of a CFO. But see, Daryl and Dwayne and them, he like, no, I'm okay being a janitor because I'm getting the benefits and I'm still a janitor. But see, women want to upgrade us. And see, what happens is men look at it as, you're not going to make me your project because I'm still a man. But see, women, and they're doing it not to be mean. They just like, I think the best of you. I want to help you upgrade. But see, men look at it as, love me for me. Like me for me. Understand this is about us bringing our bodies together. But I don't need, because you ain't my mama. Right? I'm okay being a janitor. So when you're a CEO messing with a janitor, let him be a janitor and you stay a CEO and understand the assignment. Now, if you are a CEO and you mess with a CFO, he is more likely going to be inclined to think and feel the way you do. But if you try to change that janitor, right, he going to be really insulted. And so his thing is, how I get you back, you going to put all this work into me. Well, now I'm going to go and cheat on you. And so then as a woman is going to question, my God, I paid for things. I bought him nice clothes. We went on trips together. We take nice Facebook pictures. I've introduced him to all my fellow AKAs and Deltas and Qs and Alphas. I brought him into the village. How can he cheat on me with Tamika? See, Tamika, where he at? She down for what's down and she gonna go home. You the one tried to upgrade him. So that's why when I say when you're a new couple, you need to be in therapy, because if you in therapy, you'll have Dwayne say, babe, I understand you're the CEO, but I'm okay with being a janitor. Are you okay with me being a janitor? And if you're not okay, you need to break up with me.
Wow.
And that's it. And that's it. And that's it. It's that simple. And again, the intentions are honorable. I'm trying to build you up. But again, people are okay in their station. Because remember, you can't change nobody. Only people can change themselves. That's why I told you, I tell the wives, if your husband after therapy cheats on you, you need to go and see a divorce attorney. Because that means he wants to do it. And there's nothing that nobody on this earth can do to stop him.
Wow.
So see, once we understand how to manage people and manage our expectations of people, then we win. Then we win. The minute you try to make people into Disney characters is when you set yourself up to lose, X.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been definitely a powerful show. I love it when you share your experiences. You know, that's one of the things that I really like about your show, because not only do you talk about, you know, what you learn and were trained on with regard to love and marriage counseling and all those things, you share your personal experiences in there.
Yes.
That always brings you in, and, you know, it brings the audience in. Your transparency and your passion just bubbles over. And I just love your shows. And, you know, your show was, and you and Gina, you guys, your replays were one of the most watched or most listened to. I'm sorry, this is a radio show. I'm so used to the podcast, you know. But yeah, your shows are one of the popular shows. When I look at the analytics, your numbers are up there, and I think it's got something to do with your voice too. You have a lot of energy
Oh,
and then
see, there
deep
we
voice
go.
stuff, you know.
There
Yeah.
you go.
I think it's your boy, you know, because you have a lot of beautiful women listening to you right now. See, I can see everybody.
And I
Uh-huh.
love them. And I love them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I'm glad my ladies know that I love them and I want the best because I see my mom, I see my sisters, I see my aunties and cousins, I see my daughter. X, you got to know the reason why I'm a good dude is because of Anaya Scott.
Yeah, I believe that for sure.
I want good karma to come to my baby.
I know you love your daughter, and
Sure
we
do.
all love your daughter because you love your daughter so much. So we're gonna wrap up your segment because
Okay.
our next beautiful woman, who also has a really great following, she has entered the studio. Miss April Prayer is on her way. I just want to say that today is December 3rd. If you are listening to a replay of this show, be sure and catch the live shows on Mondays from 7 to 9. And that's Monday mornings from 7 to 9. And Thursdays and Fridays, we're on from 12 to 2. That's if you're listening to a replay. You got any last words, Khalid?
Again, if you're in a new relationship or you're already in a steady relationship, please seek out therapeutic services to make it grow and be even better. Manage your expectations. And remember, it always starts off with you. Love you. Have the number one love affair with yourself, and then everything else has a fluidity with it.
Okay.
And thank you for listening for with to us.
And if people want to contact you, how can they contact you?
Absolutely. I'm on all social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Khalid, Khalid Scott. You can reach me at 312-43-Scott. And my website for the private practice is www.highachiever.net, or you can catch me on psychologytoday.com.